So, top things to look for when buying a second-hand bike are...
Woman rider.
Go on. Alright, welcome to another episode of Between Two Bikes. This is Bruce. What are we doing today, Bruce?
We're going to get a bike, maybe. We're going to look at a bike, attempt to negotiate, provided it's not bagged out and garbagey. I think. Yeah.
So, top things to look for when buying a second-hand bike are...
Woman rider.
Go on.
Very light woman rider. Not abused.
Okay, good. I thought we were going to go into a bad place there.
Well, I think that whole thing is a bad place. Just by insinuating that the woman rider does not ride it as hard is bad.
But she's probably lighter. But
she's lighter.
That might...
Maybe she rides faster because she's lighter and does bigger air.
Yeah, or maybe she's not light.
Never thought of that. Oh, jeez.
Anyways.
Okay, so the type of rider who had it.
Yeah, we were looking for someone who...
rides like a grandma.
Now, did we say what bike we're looking at?
We're looking at a Yamaha
WR250R. R 2008.
Yeah, so this is a street legal dual sport dirt bike.
It's Bruce's first off-road bike.
Yeah.
So,
we got to make sure it can do wheelies for what, 5-6 blocks straight?
well, you're gonna have to have an empty tank and put all your weight on the back seat.
Okay.
Okay, but I think some of the things we got to look out for today when buying a used bike, oil leaks is huge.
Yeah, if it's too clean, then something's not right. We need to see oil leaks.
When we get there, the engine better be cold.
Yes.
So
it hasn't been run and warmed up and
yeah. Which on a fuel injected bike is not so bad. On a carbureted bike, you tell how hard it is to start the thing if it's cold.
If it's cold, yeah. Cold starts on a cart bike can be a bitch.
So we got that out the way. Electrics, we should have brought a voltmeter to check if the state is working.
If there's a draw.
But cheap way to do that is we'll put it up against the wall, fire it up.
Hold the nose against the wall, let the clutch out and do a burnout. That's
yes. And just rev it up and see if the light gets brighter.
Okay.
If the light gets a little brighter, you're probably charging. What else are we going to look for today?
Leaky shocks, if they're leaking past the coils, then that means a replacement. Tires are tires. Chain's a chain. If it gets beat up.
Chain and sprockets, it's a negotiation one. It's not a big deal. Brake lever, clutch lever, chair.
Bark busters. If you don't have bark busters, you got to get bark busters.
Yeah, it's more money.
More money.
More money, more problems, except less parts, more problems in this case.
Less parts, more money, more problems.
What else? What else are we looking for? I want to say you want to check the neck bearings. So if you want to check, make sure the neck bearings are nice and taut. So side to side, grab the front brake, rock it back and forth. You got any clicking, any dancing? Another thing we got to be cautious of when you're buying a second-hand bike is you really got to look for that front shock leak, because it is possible that the guy has pushed all of the fluid out of the front shock, in which case it will not leak.
Yeah, and it's just going to be really bouncy,
maybe
soft.
Or you're going to hear scratching in there.
Oh, that's bad.
You're going to try to look for any sort of bends. We're going to ask the question if it's been in any accidents. We know it's been down, the plastics are scratched.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's off-road stuff. It's not hitting into a tree and bending chassis.
You don't want a bent chassis. You don't want twisted forks. That's a big
that's a big deal. We're also looking at rims in case there's any dings in the rims.
There's going to be dings in the rims.
Scratches okay. A ding, a flat spot, not so good.
Flat spots aren't good. Scratch is good.
What else are we looking for here?
Well, obviously, with running the motor, you're looking for oil coming out of the tailpipe, or super rich running gas out of the tailpipe.
Blowing blue?
Blowing blue. Blue is oil. Black is fuel. White is antifreeze. There shouldn't be any antifreeze.
No antifreeze. We want to check the oil, see what condition that shit's in.
Yeah, I usually taste it.
Yeah,
like
give it a
little dab.
Tastes like virgin olive oil. You're in good shape. Smells like bananas. Probably using Motul.
Bananas?
Yeah, shit smells like bananas.
Really? But speaking of collisions, you gotta have safety. So when you go to look at a bike, no. When you go to look at a bike, you bring a lid.
Bring a lid. Gloves.
Bring a lid.
Jacket.
Gloves. I didn't bring a jacket because my skin is like armor.
Brought his mask for COVID though, so that's.
Brought my COVID mask, so I'm safe.
But now we're gonna talk more about technical stuff. Brakes. We're looking for pad thickness. I think this is a disc brake bike.
It's a disc brake bike, and honestly,
back and front.
Yeah, and brake pads are so cheap and easy to change. I think, if anything, the biggest, if you're considering brakes, well, I guess if your rotors are worn, that's just another cost, but the caliper is the biggest thing. So you're looking for the condition of the caliper. Is it leaky? Is it oily? Is there residue around the caliper? And then is there a good activation of the caliper when you activate the brakes?
Yeah, no sponge.
No sponge.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to know though sometimes, because sometimes owners don't change the fluid on the brakes often, and it's so dirty that it doesn't perform well. So if that is only the case, it's pretty easy to bleed brakes, especially if you have a vacuum pump like I do, because I'm lazy to do it any other way. Okay, another trick for stator is to test if the stator's okay and hasn't burnt. If you smell the oil smells burnt, it's a good way to know if the stator is burnt to terminal. You want smooth gear changes. If you want to get on the power in like 3rd gear, 4th gear, and make sure there's nothing letting go. If you hammer it and the revs climb and the speed doesn't, the clutch is letting go.
Slipping, Don't want that. Or maybe the back end is just getting loose. It's getting squirrely.
Yeah.
Tires? No, that's probably not happening on a little 250.
Back wheel, we just want to know it's going to lock up. That's all we need to know.
That it is going to lock up.
It's going to lock up.
So
you hammer the brake, you're going to lock that shit up.
Slide around a little.
Front brake, we want to make sure it's going to stop nicely and release nicely. No brake drag.
You don't want it to drag, no, because then you end up plowing into a corner.
Yeah.
A little understeer, that's not fun.
Push the bike. Brakes will often skim a little bit. You'll hear a little bit of whatever.
How's that go again?
Yeah. Next point I wanted to make was studs, header studs. Those.
Yeah, guys that ride 250s are studs.
Big studs. No, so when I bought my first Buell, I didn't realize that one of the studs was broken off inside the engine.
Oh, you're talking head studs.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about like the rider being a stud or a dud.
No, still just on the bike.
Okay, so now you're being serious. A head stud. You do not want a rusty head stud, because when you go to replace said head, that stud comes off and you are in a world of trouble.
So what happens is that it's steel into aluminum usually, and that steel is heating up and cooling down, it's actually getting harder and harder, but also more brittle all the time. And so that thing snaps. If you over torque them, whatever happens, you crash and hit the exhaust and one of them snaps.
Oh.
It's a real dog to get that stuff out. Like, you can try to use a left-hand drill bit, you can try to use a punch and a extractor. Most guys break extractors off inside.
I did. I broke an extractor. I broke 2 extractors off of a manifold stud on a small block last summer.
And it is a real pain in the ass. Hey team, so we're here. My Chevy Colorado is looking nice and dirty from a big trip. Got the Dirty Habit sticker on there, supporting the boys. So here's the bike. Let's get to this.
It's rough.
Alright guys, so what I decided to do was do a voiceover for this portion, because the guys are talking a lot about a few different things. So first thing we noticed when we walked up to the bike is that it's very, very, very dirty. The thing is never seen a power washer. Which makes things very difficult. So it's hard to tell if there's an oil leak. It's hard to tell like pretty much anything. You can't see liquid anywhere. there's missing pieces of plastic, things are coming off. Guy's telling us he's gonna fix certain things before he sells it, but he wants to sell it today, kind of thing. It's just like a little bit of a rocky start, I'd say, to your deal. Rear indicators broken off, which is not a big deal for an on-off bike, but it's not fixed. And so I guess our initial feelings on the whole bike were that if this is how the guy treats his stuff and looks after it, how good is this bike really going to be at the end of the day? And it could be 100% fine, but it's just really difficult to tell. So in this part of the clip, I'm checking the teeth on the rear sprocket, which looked okay. They're not too bad. Front needs a bit of a change, I'd say. It's getting there. Teeth are starting to look pretty small. So again, look how dirty the engine is. That's not paint, that's mud. So couldn't tell you if there was an oil leak there or not. The rear tire doesn't look too bad. It's probably got a little bit of life in it. Yet it's got a mousse in it, which is nice. So you'll see there's nowhere to inject air. A mousse is just, it's like a rubber tube inside there. So there's no punctures, there's none of that. But so you run your tires always running at that depth or whatever. So probably not ideal for highway riding, and you probably eat tires pretty quick. Brake pads look good in the rear, which is not surprising. You barely ever change rear brake pads anyways. Rotors felt fine. Front pad thickness was hard to see, but it looked fine. And also the front rotor wasn't too gouged. So I'm feeling the disc, making sure there isn't huge like divots in it. It's nice and smooth for maximum braking. Again, couldn't tell you what's happening sort of on the axle there, because it's so freaking dirty. So very difficult to tell. So again here, you see how dirty everything is. I didn't even want to open the oil filler cap because of how much mud's around there and get mud in the oil. It didn't look like the head was leaking, so that's nice. On this side it's a bit cleaner, so at least on this side it was looking better. But yeah, just so filthy. So up on the top once again, we've got broken stuff, trying to discover if that's leaking. Again, there's just so much dirt, hard to tell. It doesn't look scored in any way, which is nice. But couldn't tell you if those were leaking or not. Likely not, but you can't be sure when it's so dirty. There's a nice blade in there, that was pretty cool. He was willing to throw that into the deal. So now on the other side of the bike, I'm looking at that fork leg as well. Also really hard to tell. Here's the muddy engine. You see it looks a little liquidy on the top there, but it's again, can't tell. So I'm not going to repeat myself, but I just did. Back on the shocks, they felt fine on the bike, so that's good. Noticing some rust there on the frame, which is par for the course for a bike like this. If you're, I mean, it's a 2008, so it's probably sat a few winters. It's not garage kept, so that's one thing we also discovered. The usual things buying an off-road bike, levers are bent, so there was that as well. The clutch action felt fine as well, and the front brake felt good. Dirty fluid as I suspected, so it could feel better, I'm sure. Nice handguards, that was an upside, and I like the fact that it comes with pannier racks. As well, the guy said he would throw in a gas tank that clips into the back there, which is also pretty cool. Just coming back for the rust here. On an engine mount, not ideal. It's pretty well cooked in there. Again, a guy looking after his bike would have sanded that off and painted it so it doesn't continue to rust. Lots of rust on the back there. chains rusted through. So you know, these are all just expenses really. The rims look decent. Yeah, peg on the right side's bent, gear shifter's bent. So here's that rack system, the roto packs, so we can run a little fuel tank on the back there, which is very helpful for a dual sport bike. Really, you want 300 kilometers of range, and I think stock, I don't think you'll get a lot more than 200 on one of these bikes, so that's so important.
The bike that I'm going into.
So here we're about to start things up. Studs look fine, no brakes down there to connect the exhaust into the head of the engine. Here's the start.
This is what I like about the electronic wheel, is that the lighting like boom there.
So immediately I was concerned to see smoke coming out the front. What I thought was a broken exhaust gasket or a used or run down exhaust gasket. Turned out it was just some of the stuff that is on the exhaust burning, and there's a lot of stuff. Again, because it's so dirty, it's really difficult to tell. Here you can see Bruce rocking the bike backwards and forwards, playing to see if there's any wiggle in that neck bearing. You'll feel clicking.
Doesn't have a tack on it? No tack on these guys, eh? So what is
The phone didn't really pick this up very well, but I'm getting super close to the top of the head because I can hear a ting. The bike is due a valve service at 40,000 Ks, which we thought was weird because the bike is only supposed to have 22,000 Ks on it, but here's what happens.
So how do you get it to go to kilometers?
you got to do something with the ignition to do that. It was in kilometers.
So that's my concern. Is that 22,000 miles?
That is miles.
Oh, so it's 22,000 miles.
So in case you didn't get that, Bruce is asking the owner how to change the odometer from miles to kilometers. And then he clues in that it's 22,000 miles, which is about 37,000 kilometers, which would put it close to valve service, which is a big service. If you take it into the shop, it's probably $1,000 or something. I don't know how much they are on these bikes, but we'll probably service it ourselves, so I'm not too concerned. I'm more concerned that it's advertised as 22,000 kilometers, where it's more like 37,000 kilometers, which is a fairly big difference.
I did the valve check, and then it only had like 4 rides to the bit. Maybe 600-700 kilometers. The longest ride would have been Whipsaw, which is like 200 kilometers.
So if you got that, the owner is saying that the valve service has been done on the bike, which is weird because he would know that this bike only requires a valve service at 40,000 Ks. So at 37,000 Ks, yeah, you're a bit early for a valve service. Although, like here I'm going down again because I can hear a ting. It sounds to me like the piston is touching a valve, very, very slightly. But there's something that doesn't sound right there, and I think that valve needs to be adjusted. And so it made me feel a little bit uncomfortable.
And everything's stock on there. I haven't taken off the exhaust and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, stock exhaust, stock tune.
Yeah. Everything's stock.
It's not like it's brighter or not. What do you think?
So here Bruce is trying to get the light to glow a little harder when he hits the rev to see if it's charging. It's not like a pure way to do it. If your regulator's running nicely and all that stuff, it might not work doing that little test, but it can work. It's worked for me before. Something just to go back here a little bit, as we didn't talk about, is performance parts. So this bike has a stock tune and a stock exhaust, which is good. I prefer to buy bike stock and pick a tune or buy a known good tune that matches the exhaust you put on the bike. So if someone just throws on exhaust, they do no tuning, I know that there's probably cause for concern there. What we're doing now is testing the lights to see if they work. The brake light is intermittent at best. I couldn't get the brake light to fire on either the front or the back brake. So there's an issue in the electrics there. It might have something to do with the unplugged indicator, and possibly he's unplugged something else when he's done that. But yeah, so there you can see the dirty brake fluid in the reservoir. That should be a much softer yellow. It's almost clear. So when it gets dirty, it gets brown like that. So I'm just looking again for rust and other stuff, and looking at that cable that's been cut now. So that now we've got a few little odds and ends to look into to make sure that brake light works. You definitely want a functioning brake light. Today I was doing the thing where you rev the bike to see if there's an exhaust leak. If you feel any wind or like hot gas or whatever on your hand, you know that the exhaust leaking there. Just the way to check if that gasket's still healthy, and there was no issue, so we were good on that front. Test run number 1.
Different clutch from the Gucci.
So what Bruce is trying to do here is test the gears to see if they are smooth for one, if it goes into every gear easily, and that the clutch is working nicely, not letting go. So he just rides it up and down the street to check that. Make sure things going to stop, start, and corner nicely. There's no wiggles or bumps or bruises or whatever on the bike that are going to affect it in its handling or in its power.
Having such a tall front wheel.
Shift is smooth?
Yeah, it was just super smooth. Neutral switch there. So no tach and no gear indicator of these things, correct?
No. And you'll find that with 99% of bikes.
So that's not a true statement. Bikes since the 80s come with gear selectors and tachs. That's not true of 99% of bikes. It might be so for a dirt bike, but for a dual sport, that's just a false statement and something designed to make us want to buy the bike, which I don't appreciate. Okay, listen, we're back in business here, guys.
I don't know if we're in business.
We're not in business. We're out of business, big time.
We're out of business.
We're out of business, looking for jobs.
Well, we're not looking for jobs yet.
we're looking for new bikes.
Looking for bikes.
The problem is that there's almost nothing available on the market right now. There's lots of DRZs-ish, but they all want a lot of money for them, and they're fucking beat. This bike was pretty beat.
Yeah. Good price, well worn.
So at this point, the seller is at $33.50, and he'll chuck in the additional fuel tanky thing, which that's nice and all, but
no rush.
I think he knows that there's not a lot of these bikes out there, and he's asking a bit of money, and also because of COVID, so many people are looking at four-wheel drive vehicles and doing stuff in our province, which is BC. And there's lots and lots and lots of stuff to do outdoors.
Yeah, definitely this spring and summer, the cost for used
utility stuff.
Yeah, like has gone up a lot. The market doesn't have enough availability to cover the demand, so the costs have gone up.
You took the wrong corner there, bud.
You took the wrong corner, bud.
Yeah.
And that's been evident in looking for bikes for the last few months. And this one, no different. It's not a bad price, but it is well worn and it has more kilometers than we anticipated.
Yeah.
This gentleman just responded to me.
And what's he saying?
He's saying, blah, 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 thanks. You know, too bad. He's just saying good luck, basically, you know. Trying to say, oh, you're going to spend more on a new bike, but that's understandable. Good luck with the search. So that's, you know, a nice enough guy.
No shit, you're going to spend more on a new
Yeah.
It's headache, though.
Yeah.
Like, the bike is literally covered in shit. It's really difficult to tell. It gives me the sign that the guy doesn't look after his stuff, for one. And I want to buy something.
The chain still had muck in it.
The chain had rust on it. Like, the guy's leaving bikes outside for sure. And in our climate, I don't think that's a real possibility.
But, you know, you come back from a ride in the dirt, like, hose it off and drop some oil on the chain and run it quickly.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the only...
Leave it. So...
I don't know.
It's the wrong... To me... Sometimes vehicles is about buying... based on what you can see and what you know about the product and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes it's about the feel of the seller. It's hard to gauge the guy. He seems like a sincere-ish dude. But he's just selling it a bit hard about how honest he's being. You know, when someone keeps...
To be honest.
To be honest. They keep, you know, saying stuff like that. Kind of... I mean, in my job, I interview people for a living. And, as soon as someone says, I don't lie, or I'm a Christian, or...
I'm a Jew.
Yeah.
I'm a Jew, and
So
we're the chosen people.
If they say, I'm a Jew, you know you're about to get ripped off. But...
I find that very offensive as a Jew. Oh my gosh, that's terrible, man.
I've never ever, in my years of investigating people, and I've investigated a lot of people, anyone who says I'm a Christian, I don't lie, is lying.
Yeah.
That's been 100%
If you feel
correct.
the need to justify your stance based on your religion or your level of sincerity and honesty, there you probably shouldn't need to feel that need to say those things.
Yeah. Anyways, I don't know that this guy is lying. I don't know that he's all that clued in to know. Like, the forks were so dirty, I couldn't tell if it was fork oil leak or mud.
That's the first thing I was looking at. But I did wipe it away, and I didn't see any scoring on the stanchions.
But you don't need much, eh?
You don't need much.
You don't need much. And fork seals is a big job. It's not that hard, but it takes a while, and you can stuff it up. So anyways, so Bruce is not buying that bike, at least not today.
Not today.
Let's see, he might come back. I think $2,500 is the price for that bike.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I've seen the Kawasaki equivalent of that bike go for about $2,200 in much better condition than that bike.
All right.
But we don't want to buy a bike that's frames rusted. We don't know what the maintenance history is on this thing. I'm a firm believer that it needs a valve service. It's a big job. We can probably do it ourselves. But I mean,
well, for sure we can do it ourselves. We can build the thing ourselves.
But if you had to take that into whole shot, it's $1,500 service.
What? Is it really?
Holy shit!
Holy shit! Yeah. Really?
It'll be at least 6 hours labor at $140 an hour.
Oh, I would never pay the labor, but I had no idea it was that much.
It's
like
huge money.
Again, another reason to get a Moto Guzzi. Valves right on the side. Heads are easily accessible. In and out, half an hour. But that's not going to happen here on a dirt bike.
No. Okay, I want to know from the viewers. This is the if you didn't catch the whole video, this is what it is. It's the guy's down to 3,350 Canadian dollars. The bike has about 37,000 kilometers or 23,000
miles. But here's the interesting thing. we went there under the guise that the bike had 23,000 kilometers, and upon inspection I recognized that the odometer was in miles. So that 23,000 just jumped to 37,000 kilometers.
Yeah.
So that's a noticeable jump, and I wouldn't have gone to look at the bike in the first place had I known that.
Yeah. So you're talking about like 30-40% more kilometers than what we expected.
Yeah, so if the price would have come down substantially, I would have entertained it, but it didn't come down enough.
He didn't come down enough.
He came down 500. If he would have come down below $3,000, we'd probably have a truck in the back of the bike right now.
Back in the back of the truck.
Did I say it the other way around?
Truck in the back of the bike.
Is that what I said?
Yeah.
We can play it back. One of us is wrong, one of us is right. It's probably me.
So, okay, what else? Positives about this bike. It starts, first start. No problem there. New battery, allegedly. So
Allegedly.
That's in there.
Dude, honestly, if you're honest, to be honest,
and I'm going to tell you I'm going to be honest, which means I'm definitely going to be honest.
and when you emphasize it like that, you must be honest.
You've got to be honest if you're saying it like that.
Yeah, if
Sure.
you're selling something like this, you need to clean it up so people can inspect it properly. If you're not doing that, I think you're right, Gary. I think most of us would just automatically assume you're hiding something. Maybe you're not, and you're just clueless.
Yeah.
But that's not the right way to do it. You got to clean it up and let people inspect. So we're out.
You're either hiding it or you're showing me your lack of care for vehicles. And so if you can't be bothered to clean your bike, I mean, and I'm a culprit of this. My bikes are never that clean.
You know whose bike is clean?
Clancy's. Yours.
Well, mine's not clean.
Oh,
It's okay. Mine's
Tim's.
Well, yeah, Tim is like over the top, man.
Yes.
But our good friend, our buddy, our
Brohonsky.
Shapiro, we're talking about you. Your bike is way too clean. It's almost like you armor all the tread on your tires.
Mm-hmm.
Almost.
No, he likes to look good.
You know, and that's you take a lot of pride in that bike, and you should.
Yeah.
And you kind of make the rest of us feel like we're not doing
You make
our
me
part.
feel like a shit person.
Well,
okay?
that's a bit much.
You make
I was
me
going to say a
feel-
little inadequate, but that's...
You make me feel like a bad father.
Do you have kids?
I don't have kids. You just show the viewers one of your biceps.
No, I'm not going to do that.
Come on, just one bicep.
No, it's not going to happen.
One.
No. It's not about that.
Bruce's arms are bigger than my legs.
I don't think so. I think they're close, but not bigger. Oh, man.
Anyways, this is definitely getting off track. The
Yeah.
bottom line is we didn't buy a bike today. We're not happy about it.
Yes.
Should have bought a KTM.
If I had confidence that I was going to ride the dirt bike
Yeah?
enough, I would go and buy a brand new whatever, KTM or Husky or maybe a WR.
Yeah.
However, I'm fairly confident that this purchase is only going to get used a couple of times a month and only for 3 or 4, maybe 5 months a year. And given that, I don't want to hold or tie up any noticeable sum of money in something that gets very little use.
Okay. That's good rationale.
Sometimes I make sense.
Yes.
Sometimes I don't.
And on that piece of wisdom, on financial advice from someone who
Probably shouldn't be giving any financial advice. I mean,
who's from a race who's notoriously
We're not a race, we're a religion.
from a cultural
Stand.
perspective,
Yeah.
typically fairly decent with money.
You're being so cautious and considerate. I like it. And I can't disagree. I can't disagree.
So if we got to listen to someone about it, we might as well listen to Bruce.
Yeah. Well, okay.
You don't want to listen to money things from me because I like to spend money.
Well,
okay?
yeah, but I like to spend my money too.
I know. What am I going to do with it when I'm dead? Nothing. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Well, this video's gone on long enough, so we'll say goodbye.
That was fun.
Join us next time when we do something else. Sick.
It's probably going to be going to look at another bike. All right.
Sweet.